Good morning. I will call our September meeting of Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority to order. A couple items before we get into the agenda. We've got a transit center report from Dennis Fry, if he'd like to come up and kind of bring us up to date. And,
Good morning.
in your position, tell us.
I'm Dennis Fry. I'm the facility and fleet manager.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, trustees. I want to bring you up to date on the Transit Center Improvement Project that we currently have going on at the Transit Center. We're doing it to make the Transit Center more inviting, modern, and more efficient for our customers. The project included updating the landscaping to unify us with the city in Project 180, repairing areas of existing pavement where we have a lot of breakout, installing water spigots in all 5 of the existing bus shelters, replacing the snow and ice guards on the shelter roofs and also installing new ones on the transit roof, installing benches and improving the area where you enter the transit walk-in areas to where they're not just a brick wall, they're more of an inviting area for you to see. An enclosure, a locking enclosure fence around the dumpster area. And in this project, we're spending around $360,000. We're spending it very wisely and making good use of the money, and I want to thank you all for that. With that, you want to pull up. The first picture shows the trees and how they're growing into the shelters, and they're really overgrown for the area in which they're at, and it kind of enclosed the transit center. Also, in that picture, you'll see the guy leaning on the little wall, but there's little walls there where you enter the transit center. The next picture shows this is 4th Street. Part of the Project 180 is moving the trees closer to the street, and you'll see the new concrete areas. That's where the trees used to be. They got moved down closer to the street. The trees are more drought resistant, take less maintenance to maintain, and they moved them. You'll also notice the little half walls that are in there now, and there's some new signage areas in there. Where you enter the transit center now, those are where there's a signage like that on both sides to bring it up to a more modern and inviting look for people as they're entering the transit center. On the side of the building, east and west side, this was made into the brick, and so we're putting kiosks in. And here they're installing them. They're not quite completely done. This is on the west side of the building. They're putting a kiosk in it to cover up where it said Metro Transit. And that will be used at a later date for adding stuff into it. On this picture, they're having fun with this. They should have been done by now, but they're having a problem getting it square to get the last panel in. Next one of the things was the landscaping. We had a lot of big bushes around. Again, it kind of enclosed the transit center, and it really wasn't an open look. In this picture, part of the Project 180 is more drought-resistant planting, smaller plants. We improved the irrigation system, and we put rock in them instead of bark, so it's more user-friendly. Less maintenance. This was some of the areas we had pavement issues. Not only is it hard on our customers, it's hard on our buses. Here's where they replaced that over 4th and Hudson. If you also look up on the edge of the roof of the shelter, there's no ice cleats up on there. They have been falling off. They'd been on there for a long number of time, and they had fallen off over the years. Here's where they're installing the new ice cleats. And the ice cleats just on the metal roof just break the ice and the snow from falling off and injuring somebody underneath them. It breaks it up to where it falls and it doesn't. It's more of a fluff than it is a big item coming out. We've already had a lot of compliments from customers about the openness look that is going on down there. It's more inviting, it's more open. You can kind of see from one side of the transit center to the other. It's not all enclosed in. So we've got a lot of positive feedback from people with it. We're probably 95% plus maybe done. They really just have the 2 kiosks and they'll be completed with it, and then we'll be doing the final inspection on it. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd answer for you.
Any questions? All right, Dennis, thank you. Do we have any citizens to be heard this morning? If not, then I would have a motion to approve our minutes of our August meeting unless there's any corrections or changes. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. We have no items on our consent docket. We've got 5 items on our individual consideration. The first item is approval of a contract for architectural services with Beck Design for project at the Santa Fe parking garage tenant space renovation. And I think Corey's going to give us a report on that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is renovations at Santa Fe garage. We're asking for permission to enter into a contract with Beck Design. The project has been divided into 2 parts. Part A, which will cost about $670,000. That includes some work to the stairwells, the north elevator lobby, or the main elevator lobby, some drainage work that's affecting some tenant space, some work in the electrical room, and a roof over the main elevator, which provides access to the elevator control room, and a small staircase. The remaining portion, $2.36 million, will be used to turn all of the vacant space and the space that's currently occupied by UCO into white box status for the tenant. Of that $2.36 million, $1 million will be reimbursed by the TIF fund. That being said, I have Karen Youngblood here, the future tenant, UCO, that would like to make a couple of comments.
All right.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Karen Youngblood. I'm the Executive Director for Customized Education at the University of Central Oklahoma. I operate the Santa Fe Plaza parking garage facility, and we are very excited. We've actually been there since 2009. We've almost been there 10 years, and we're looking forward to another 10 years with the city. We want to be a good steward and a good partner and bring all of the available space, some of which has not been occupied since before the Skirvin was left, so in the 80s. We're looking very forward to bringing that back online, making it rentable square footage for your institution, and being able to bring that corner to life with the new Santa Fe intermodal transportation area. When the streetcars come online, this would be a dead corner without our renovating this area and bringing it up to the aesthetics that it needs, the movement, the excitement of the area. And so we're real excited to partner with you on it. We plan to have classrooms, we plan to have public space that the public can entertain and use, and we plan to continue our incubator program there, where we take small businesses that have been ready to move out of their small homes and maybe go into their first real address, and we're working on making them viable tax-paying citizens and hiring more people to return taxes back to the city. So we're real excited to continue that program. It's been just a wonderful partnership, and I entertain any questions that you might have or any questions about our plans. Or
Would you expand a little bit on what occurs there besides this incubator? And do you have classes, evening classes, day classes? What?
Great question. Currently, we only have incubator, and we don't have any classes there. Right now, we have 5 facilities in downtown. We have our boathouse, we have ACM Performance Lab, we have UCO downtown, which is the entire lower level, about 10,000 square foot at Carnegie Center, and then we need this space. Our space at Carnegie Center has done overwhelmingly well, and we're full. And so we need to be able to maximize the amount of classroom space we have. We moved our entire MBA program from Edmond campus downtown, and it's taking most of our classrooms in the evening, and we want to continue to expand that program. Plus, we have 2 more master's programs, the Master of Professional Science Management and the Master of Public Administration, that would like to have some room to be able to hold their classes downtown as well, especially with 71,000 people working in the downtown area. There's a lot of people that are already here, and they want to be able to take classes downtown instead of going somewhere else for a campus. So we're looking forward very, very much to hosting evening classes. Most of our classes end about 10 o'clock, so they're not going all night kind of classes. But my group does all of corporate training, professional development, and so we'll use the classes during the day for that kind of training, as well as companies rent out our space both at UCO downtown and hopefully at this new space for corporate retreats, for a meeting. Maybe the chamber was full and they need a place to meet. We'll be able to host those kinds of things and interact with the community.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
This is exciting news. Everything you're up to is exciting. Just to go back to a couple things I heard you say, to emphasize my support and hopefully people watching their support too. It's so critical, as you said, that when people are walking in front of a parking garage or any building in a city, right, that there is not just cement on that first floor, that there's shops, there's things to do in there. So I'm so happy that UCO is helping to, that will bring alive that street, and that's critical, and I'm glad you all recognize how important that is, so thanks for that. The small incubator, I would love to continue learning more. I've spoken with our economic development people a little bit about this, but this is very important, right? Because not only are people going to be, walking that street and having access to whatever it is you all put in there, that's going to be an economic development potential, right? But so too will be giving people the tools to create their own small businesses. And there's so many young entrepreneurs out there in our city, as we know from the plaza.
87% of businesses in Oklahoma are rated as small businesses.
Yeah. And our Latino community statewide is maybe
actually higher than 87% in there, yes.
Yeah.
I think it's 93.
It's insane. It's great. It's so wonderful. So I just see you all as having this opportunity to really connect our students at UCO to our city and help build and foster this community. So anything I can do to help, please let me know. But
we would love you to come tour, and we would love you to meet the tenants that we currently have. The tenants that we have are poised to hire major amounts of people in the next coming years. We're a qualified incubator through the Oklahoma State Department of Commerce, so we're able to offer them some tax incentives to get them up and going, and then as they grow out of our incubator, then they start putting those sales tax back into our city.
I would love to take that tour. We'll talk afterwards about when we can, and I would love to know what we can do to promote that incubator across our city a bit better. I think that's such an opportunity.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments. One of the things that we really want to do, not just programming inside of our space, but we want to carry it out to the courtyard. We want to carry it out in our public art that we put near our facility. We're hoping to do a mural along the long side of E.K. Gaylord. We haven't moved forward on any of those design reviews that we would, but we want to bring some color and some life, and we want it to feel safe. I know from the parking that this is the #1 parking garage parked in when the Thunder are in town. So there's a lot of opportunity to really highlight some of the great things that are going on in the city to both visitors and just to reinforce Oklahoma City and how great we are when people come to park at the Thunder and different events and the Cox and everything that's going on. I appreciate that support very much.
Yeah, I appreciate that vision. And one final thing, I was just looking at my notes here. You say your classes run until 10 p.m.?
Ish.
Some of them? This is going to be a wonderful thing, right, whenever our streetcar comes up and available in just about a year.
We are very excited about that.
Right, because now students across the metro will be able to ride a bus if they don't have a car to down here to use that streetcar to move them around, and then use that bus to get them back out to Mesta Park, the plaza, South Side, wherever they need to go. So this is the sort of stuff, this is why public transportation is so important. I'm so happy that you're filling this void.
We would be lost without public transportation, quite honestly. Even from our Edmond, I don't know the number of the line, but the line that runs directly from Edmond to Oklahoma City is vital for us. In fact, we'd like to work with you guys on expanding that and doing some more with it. Because it doesn't run late enough to support the night classes for the MBA. So if you're an international student, or maybe you're just a student with poor socioeconomic conditions and you don't have a car, you don't have an ample way to get around town, you can't afford to Uber down to take your MBA classes or a night class or something like that. Or maybe you're already working downtown, maybe you're a waitress or something. You can't get on public transportation and get back up to Edmond where you happen to live on campus. So we are extremely grateful and extremely bought into the entire concept of public transportation, and we also feel even in how it moves students from OCCC and from Rose up into either OSU, OKC, or to us, or to OU Health Science. We extremely value public transportation and the impact it has on our students.
Karen, can I ask a question?
Yes, please,
Is the renovation including the west side of the courtyard, the space that's leased over on the west side?
It's the entire east side, and then the space that's empty that's been 1,000 different restaurants?
Yes.
Yes, that part. We have something extremely exciting programmed for that. And then Red Earth is there. We're a good partner with Red Earth. They're looking, we've always played very nicely with them. And then there's another area over by the Skirvin. We call it the Annex, and it's about 2,000 square feet, and it's not connected to anything, but we're actually looking at doing some STEM incubator work in that space. It's separated. It can have different venting. It can have some different, we don't have to worry about some of the fume changes with Red Earth. We wouldn't want to be too close to them. So it's nice that it's a separate area, and we're looking forward to doing some STEM incubator there. But every single square foot, in fact, if anybody that's currently there doesn't want their space, we'll take it too. But every single square foot, I mean, there is actually more square footage right now not rentable than is being rented. So we're really excited that every square foot that's there will be able to be rentable. And for the long term by us.
All right. Well, we need it long-term to recoup our $3 million or
You really will. You really will. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why we know that we're entering into what looks like about a 10-year contract with it, and we're well aware of that. We have a 10-year on Carnegie. We plan to be here. We have more square footage than any other public institution in downtown. So we're not going anywhere. We are the metropolitan university, and we've made that claim, and we're going to stand behind it, and this partnership really reinforces that for us.
Very good. All right. Karen,
Anything else?
thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Chris, I do have some questions. If we could talk in terms of the finances. So, to begin with, where does the money come from?
For the renovations, the 2.3? Yeah. $1 million of it is funded through a TIF allocation that has already been approved.
Okay.
And then the remaining balance will come from our parking capital reserves. And similar to, the structure that we had with the Arts District garage and finishing out that tenant space, we've looked, and it's about a 15-year or so time period, I'm trying to recall from memory, to recover that investment to get it to a white box space that's rentable.
Yeah.
That's primarily parking capital reserves and TIF.
So, with the additional renovations, we'll be able to lease out this area. How much is the rental income that we'll receive on an annual basis?
Well, we've still yet to negotiate that new lease.
Okay.
So I don't have that exact number. What I can say is that right now we would anticipate getting a higher amount per square foot because of the improvements to the space than what we're currently getting with the space as is.
Okay.
But UCO isn't renting the space, is that correct?
Well, currently UCO has a portion of the space, but with these improvements, they'll take all the remaining space that's not being rented out now at all. And in fact, it's in a condition where we could not lease it even if we wanted to. It's
Completely
just in
unrentable.
that-
We currently have 5,000 square feet. We've had 3,000 since 2009. We went from 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000. We've capped at 5,000, partly because we can't move the walls, we can't do anything because of the condition of the space. So we have 5,000 square foot. When this is all said and done, we'll have, correct me if I'm wrong, a little over 18,000 square feet.
So it's the intent that the rest of the spaces will be leased to UCO?
Yeah, we're planning to take it all.
And then you sublease it to your incubator company?
We actually help with their lease rate. We do not sublease. We allow them to occupy the space under very tight controls. There's very set requirements for the Department of Commerce. They don't have a lease. It is a 30-day out written on either side. So if for some reason they weren't performing according to any of the terms of our lease, they would be evicted. It's never happened, but we are very sensitive to that it is not a sublease. It's not something that you guys have to worry about. Who are they leasing to? Does it violate something that you would want to have in the space? We're very, very sensitive to that and have our tenant agreement in place so that they can be in the incubator. But it is not a sublease. There's something else I have to say about the states. Yeah, we currently pay about $6 a square foot, and what we've all talked about is $10 a square foot-ish. We know that we're going to have to get there, but it's definitely going to be higher than what we're paying now. And the unrentable space is truly unrentable. There's no HVAC, there's no water, the electrical's not up to code. When First National was vacating, we had people come over and they were trying to get people to take that space, and no one would take that space. It's terrible.
So from an investment standpoint, in terms of the project, true, the condition that the space is in, it was to the point where if we could not find a way to lease it and make the space usable, it was going to become a maintenance item for us. We're going to have to spend some money to just mitigate the existing condition. So again, by being able to partner with UCO and it being a project to kind of benefit the public, benefit the community, benefit education, we were able to leverage some TIF funding to really help us improve the space, whereas another entity coming in, if we wanted to do the same thing, probably would not have been eligible for TIF funding. So that does help, but Trustee Greenwell, to your point, and I can get you the final numbers, but it's roughly about a 15-year payback for us with estimated lease rates.
Yeah. And I want to make sure everyone recognizes I support this idea. I just want to make sure it works financially. And so here's a related question. Given all the challenges we've had with Santa Fe in regards to repairs, a lot of it has to do with the elevators, but there's been other repair issues. Will this area, are we confident that we can make these improvements and they won't encounter, and it's probably not the thing to talk about in front of the prospective
Trust me, the prospective client's been in on everything.
Yeah, but we're pretty confident that with the renovations, the basic structure is sound enough to support these types of activities.
With everything we've looked at so far, yes, we don't see anything that would cause us concern for moving forward. But this is just awarding the contract for the A&E, and so if, as we get through final design, issues come up, then we'll have to have those discussions and see if the project is still a go, if there were to be some fatal flaw in what we're planning.
Right. Okay.
Well, I would hope it's structurally sound enough since it's supporting 5 or 6 floors of the garage above it. So.
Chris, I do too.
Okay.
I'm just recalling, just on the last 5 or so years that I've been on the trust, we've had some challenges in that particular parking garage.
Yeah, drainage has been a concern. Anytime you go in and renovate old space, there's usually, there are times where there's hazards that have to be abated, and so we'll be, that's part of what the architect's going to help us with.
All right, thank you. All right, any other comments? Then I'd have a motion to approve item A. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item B is adopt a resolution authorizing the administrator to enter into a sole source contract with Remix Software for transportation planning software.
Okay, so a little bit of information on this item is, as staff, obviously it's our goal to continually evaluate our transit services, particularly our bus routes. And, ideally, we'd like to be able to do more analysis as we see changes in ridership, as we see new destinations or venues be located on routes. And currently, although we store a lot of that information electronically and we design all of our bus routes and maintain them in an electronic database, in order to get that information out and analyze it, it's still pretty labor intensive. And so two things that have really prompted staff to consider this technology is, one, it's a technology we've been following for a couple of years now. It's some rather advanced, basically planning software that allows us to do different what-if type scenarios. What I mean by that is if we change a route slightly, or we determine we want to design a new route, after we load all of our local data into that, our costing data, our demographic data, such as where minorities and low-income residents are located. Once we load all that data into the software, we're able to do a lot of very quick analysis to see how changes in the routes will be impacted. And so, again, following the manufacturer of the software, talking to a couple of transit agencies that have used it, and understanding that we now have really less people in our planning department than what we've had in the past, we'd like to, again, request permission to authorize a contract for 1 year to try this software and see if it helps us out. We think it'll be a huge benefit to us, particularly moving forward with additional routes and potential changes.
So the $20,000 is the total for the contract for the year?
Yeah, for 1 year.
Are the renewals at 20,000 or thereabouts?
Yeah, I believe there's 2 at same price.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 2 additional 1-year options. So, other than the 1-year commitment, that's all we're obligating ourselves for at this time.
All right. Any questions?
Yeah,
David?
Jason, could I ask a question related to determining a route? Hypothetical. So Route 16 goes as far south as 89th Street. And I know there's been requests, could it ever extend, say, to 104th? The issue is, well, to do that might jeopardize our ability to complete that route, say, within 30 minutes. But at what point do we say, you know what, we're completing the current route, Route 16, within 25 minutes. If we went to 104th, it might add 7 minutes. And so we're at 32 instead of below 30. Is it that critical to have it at 30? Does it really impact our scheduling if it goes beyond 30? If it allows us to pick up an additional mile, is my question.
Yeah, it really does, from the standpoint of one of the things we really stand firm on our route design is being able to maintain those clock face headways, pulsing at the transit center on the hour, 15, half, 45 after. It's a slippery slope once you start deviating from that, and all of a sudden you have one route that may not sync up with the rest of the system. It's just something we've been very cautious about as staff, coming off the recommendations from the Nelson-Nygaard study and the successes that we've had. We've just been real cautious about deviating from that recommendation at all. However, for example, to take it a little bit further, this type of software would help us do a more, I think, accurate and more efficient analysis of, well, we may not want to add a mile in a little bit of time, but what if we truly extended the route, maybe to provide more service even further into more, right? And we could very quickly determine the cost, estimated ridership, are there any disproportionate burden or disparate impact considerations we need to make? And then the discussion is, we can grow the route, additional resources.
Just to clarify, 104th is still Oklahoma City along
Right.
Route 4.
Yes, and
We have to fight
I
that all the
understand that.
time.
You were right there.
So this software would at least allow you to say, well, you know what, maybe we could go, if not a full mile, maybe a half a mile by making other modifications elsewhere along the route.
That's right.
And I'm not suggesting that we would gain ridership by doing that, because I know as we get further north, especially north of 59th, we pick up quite a few riders from 59th all the way downtown. So I'm not suggesting we would give up anything like that. But if this software does provide the ability to do some analysis that might extend our reach a little bit and not hurt
Right.
the capacity to support the riders that currently are on this buses, I'd say let's pursue that.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? Not, then I'd have a motion to approve item B.
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Item C is to adopt a resolution authorizing the administrator to receive contract and bonds and issue a notice to proceed with the Century Center parking garage re-roof. I guess Corey's going to speak to that a minute.
Hello again. The roofs above the helixes have reached their life. In this project, we're asking for this permission so that we can expedite the project, as the contract would be due in a couple of days. We'd have a full roof replacement for both of the helixes to include the steel beams. In that project, drains would be replaced for the roof. We would not be replacing the skylights in order to save a few dollars, and the entire project has a schedule of 45 days. In that 45-day period, we would have to prevent customer access to the roof of the parking garage, but we feel comfortable that we can relocate those few parkers within the same garage.
Is it resurfacing the parking or just the...
Just the roofs of the helixes, but because of the steel beams and the heavy equipment being used for safety reasons, we would prevent anybody from parking their vehicle up there while the work was taking place. Total project is estimated at $420,000.
All right. Any questions? Then I'd have a motion to approve item C.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And item D is approval of a lease agreement with Factor 110 LLC.
Excited about this project. This would be our first new tenant for the intermodal hub. The space that the tenant is looking to lease sits between Spokies and Pink Hetzel. Approximate square footage of net usable space is 3,190 square feet. First year, it'd be approximately $30,000 a year in rentable space for the first 2 years, and then after that, years 3, 4, and 5 would be $36,000 a year. The minimal, the cost of renovating the space will be absorbed by the Intermodal Hubs project at this time, and the return on that investment would be just under 5 years. The Factor 110 is actually going to start up an LLC that would be referred to as Destination Oklahoma. They would be providing walking tours, day bus excursions, and future expansion with the Oklahoma City trolley tours. They would also take people to the museum and other attractions throughout the city. That's their main business plan. While they have guests in the shop, they would have some scissor tail gifts, the largest selection of made in Oklahoma gifts and products. Exciting space and exciting project.
Good.
Any questions?
It's always good to lease some of our space. All right. Any questions? Then I would have a motion to approve item D.
Chris, could I ask
Yes.
a question? I'm sorry. And it's more on the status of the intermodal hub. When will that be scheduled to be completed? Do we have a date?
I don't have an exact date. I know that it's going to be within probably the next 30 to 45 days, last I heard. Now, that's for the project that Public Works is currently working on. As far as some of the other parts of the project, like the tunnel actually going through to Bricknet, that's
Right.
much later. But the project that they're working on now is supposed to be finished up pretty quickly. Now, I do know that the street work in front of the Santa Fe will still be ongoing for, I don't know when the Project 180 piece will wrap up.
I've heard
So-
through 2025, something like that.
Okay, well, yeah, so,
Slight exaggeration.
Yeah. Who knows?
yeah. Well, we told our prospective tenant it would be much sooner than that, so hopefully it won't be that long. But so anyway, the Project 180 work will go a little bit beyond when they get the facility finished up. But we're hoping to have, I believe, some type of event to open the facility, late fall.
So currently, you can still access to ride the train.
Yes.
And then after this project is completed, will there be other sources of public transportation available at the hub?
Well, initially it will still be Amtrak, and we'll look forward to the streetcar coming online. And then, of course, that's one of the things we're excited about with Factor 110 is that they're going to be doing some walking tours and bus tours out of there. So, we hope to gradually ramp up and add more transportation options. But
And our
when it
Spokies-
opens, it will.
Our Spokies
Yeah,
office
Spokies.
is in the building.
Our Spokies and Oklahoma River cruises will
Yeah.
both be located there.
Okay, and I'm sorry to get off the subject a little bit. We'll always have the transit center, but there will be at some point in time buses
Yes.
going through the hub,
Right.
dropping people off, picking them off.
Yeah, we won't necessarily have, obviously every bus route, but the ones that make sense and we can have them serve the hub and the transit center, we'll look at that. The downtown Discovery, as we reroute it to complement the streetcar, we would hopefully be able to route it by the intermodal hub.
And finally, will there be additional parking available that has been closed during construction once this current project is through in about a month or so?
Well, both the parking lots will once again be open, but there will actually be less parking spaces than what the facility initially had because of the expanded pedestrian areas.
Okay.
So there'll be a little bit less parking, but with it being under construction like it has, once it opens back up, I think it's actually going to feel like we have more parking in that area because we'll be able to really fully utilize that lot further to the south, and then also the depot itself will be opened up for parking.
It would be nice if if we could schedule some type of ribbon cutting or grand.
Yeah, I believe there is
There
one.
absolutely
for-
will be.
Okay.
They do want to wait until some of that construction work in front is finished, I think.
Oh.
So it won't be 2025.
Yeah.
At least till they flip the lanes. I think that's a big part of it.
And David, I've asked Jason in his report at the end to give us a little recap of what occurred out at the state capitol and transportation. And if you read the report in the Journal Record, I believe yesterday, about all the various train services and that will eventually use that facility if and when funds are available to provide all that. So I think it's being designed for much more use than just Amtrak.
Yeah, I'm excited, it's just a matter of time identifying those.
Well,
Couple of comments that don't pertain to the lease. Yesterday, I was advised that next week, traffic will flip on E.K. Gaylord, and traffic will start utilizing the new lanes closest to the Santa Fe station. So you'll have a better glimpse as you drive down the street at a slow pace to see some of we're referring to it as the amenity zone or the pedestrian expanded sidewalk. And the parking areas that have been reduced. And then we are currently working on the re-roofing of the Pete Kitzel building, where Factor 110 will be in Spokies. So that waterproofing should be completed over the next several weeks.
It's a little off, but what occurs when they switch the lanes for the east exit into the Cox for Thunder games? And
it's been, we will continue to have access to the Cox garage from E.K. Gaylord traveling both directions. Project 180, if you're traveling north on E.K. Gaylord, there's a new meridian that's being installed. There's a turn lane cutout that will allow you to enter into the Cox garage. And there will be some times during non-peak periods for the garage where that east exit and entry plaza will be reduced, but it will be fully functional for all games, all major events, major ingress and egress times.
going north and south when you exit, even?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Then here,
As long as we're talking about it, can I ask a question? You talk about bus transit being a part of that. Where are those buses? Are they building that into the 180 construction, or will it be in the parking areas on the north side, or where will buses?
Yeah, there's actually some, I guess we call it bus pullouts designed right in front of the hub, so it would just be somewhat front door service pulling off the street with a area for one of our buses and even a full-size motor coach to be able to access it.
all right. Do I have a motion to approve item D?
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Item E is adopt a resolution ratifying the administrator's action in approving the scope of work and releasing the request for proposal for consultant for mobile ticketing procurement and authorizing the administrator to negotiate and enter into a contract with the successful proposer. The chairman would like to amend this resolution and delete enter into a contract and have the motion authorize the administrator to negotiate with the successful proposer.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that was the intent of the item all along, was to be able to negotiate the contract and then bring the contract back to the trust for final approval. So do appreciate that amendment. So just a little bit of information on this item. As you know, the FAIR study is currently underway. Our consultant, 49's Technologies, was here last month, did a presentation for the trustees to kind of provide an update on the work that has progressed to date. And I think hopefully it was obvious through that presentation and then even in prior and subsequent conversations with our consultant that, one of the recommendations they're going to be making to us in terms of fare collection is to look at mobile ticketing. And, we had the discussion of different options, including the smart card option, but it's clear that the mobile ticketing option is going to give us the most benefits, it's going to be the most flexible, and it's probably going to be the most cost-effective way for us to improve our fare collection technology. So with that, and knowing that, we want to make sure we have this technology in place by the time the streetcar goes into service in around December of 2018, we went ahead and directed staff to issue an RFP, a request for proposal, for a consultant to assist us in developing a request for proposal for this mobile ticketing technology and to help us implement the technology once the platform is selected. And so with action on this item here today, again, will allow me the authority to be able to negotiate that contract for a consultant to help us with mobile ticketing and bring that to the trust for approval. Our estimated cost for the project for the mobile ticketing consultant services is around $100,000. The RFPs are still out being advertised. We have not received any proposals yet.
So once the RFPs, which are out, and they make a bid, then you'll just pick the one after
We'll go ahead. We'll go ahead and go through the process like we normally would with a selection committee, identify the lowest and best proposer, begin contract negotiations, actually conclude contract negotiations, and then bring that contract to the trust for consideration.
All right. Then do I have a motion to approve item E? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item is ratification of claims and payroll through August 29th. If there are no questions, I'd have a motion to ratify. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Financial reports. First report is budget to actual for 1 month of our fiscal year, and I think Jason had a couple of comments on that.
Yeah, just a few comments, and again, it's just 1 month out of the year, so not a lot of specifics to discuss or go over, but I'll just direct your attention to page 2. This is the Transportation Operations Fund. Looking at the operating revenues, you'll notice the overall operating revenues are about 99.6% of what we had projected in our budget through 1 month of the fiscal year. But we'll direct your attention to the fare box revenue. We're actually about $10,000 under what we had expected, so we're off to a little bit slower start than we would like. But again, it's 1 month out of the fiscal year. Same thing with operating expenditures. We've started the year with some savings. You can see at the individual categories there where those savings are coming from. Most of it is in personnel costs. Our overall revenue currently exceeds our expenditures by about $800,000, keeping in mind, however, though, that we have drawn on our general fund subsidy during this first month. On page 3, this is the budget actual for the parking operations. On the parking operations, our operating revenues are actually ahead of what we had budgeted. In fact, we're off to a very strong start in terms of comparing to our budget at about 119% of what we had projected. And most of that overage is in the monthly contract revenue line that you see there. I would also direct your attention to operating expenditures, particularly the parking garage operations line. You'll notice that through 1 month of the fiscal year, there's virtually no expenses, no budget, and that's simply because we will pay for the services rendered by Republic Parking Systems for management of the garages in August. So you'll see that on the August budget to actual.
Jason, the $122,000 on monthly contracts, is that due to new parkers, or is that due to larger people paying their bills later?
Yeah, it's really due to our budget estimate. we've actually, when we were building our budget back in February timeframe, we had basically projected a little bit more decline in our monthly contract parkers because we had experienced kind of a month-over-month, year-over-year decline in monthly contract parkers. And what we've actually experienced is that has kind of stabilized. So it's really more a matter just, we had probably put the budget together more conservative than what we're actually experiencing. And then looking at the river cruises, again, just a quick comment here. Looking at the operating revenues, you'll notice we have drawn about $400,000 of our total $725,000 in general fund payment. So that, as a result, shows the operating income to be substantially where revenues are substantially in excess of expenditures. As we progress through the year, that amount will slowly come down. And then really kind of the same scenario on Spokies. You'll notice we have went ahead and drawn our full general fund payment, again showing that with that full general fund payment, revenues are exceeding expenditures by about $128,000. And again, as we go through the year, expect to see that number go down.
All right. Can I receive all the financial reports at once? Or
Yeah.
Is the interim financial statement for the fiscal year ended June 30th?
Yeah, so just as an information item, there is an interim financial through June 30th. You'll also see the pension financial through June 30th. What I would recommend is, in terms of looking at the year-end financial report, I'll save my comments until we get the final report that accounting completes for us. And actually, I've had some discussions with accounting about them coming to the trust meeting and presenting some of that information to the trustees, just to kind of give us a recap of how we finished the year. So be looking for that probably in the November, December timeframe.
All right. Good. And when's the audit occur?
Well, the audit is actually going on now.
Going on now,
Yeah.
so it will come out about the same time the final.
Probably after the audit.
Okay, good. All right. And if there's no questions, I'd have a motion to receive our financial reports.
So moved.
All in favor? Opposed? All right. We have two program reports. The first is the streetcar update.
What's that? You got that thing running yet? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you guys just keep missing it. Just running by every morning. Yeah. Good morning. I hope everyone had a great Labor Day holiday. Happy to be here. So August was a very busy month for operations. I'll just jump right into it and try to get through this pretty quick. So operations, Herzog continues to develop their standard operating procedures. We're looking at close to, I think we're up to about 160 SOPs that are being developed. Embark and Herzog held our kickoff meetings for our Safety and Security Certification Committee and our Fire and Life Safety Security Committee. I'll get into more details of those committees in a second. Embark Maps, Jacobs, and Herzog were finalizing our certifiable elements. We had our second Rail Activation Committee on August 24th. Embark, Herzog, ODOT, and Jacobs visited the Brookville Equipment Factory. I've got a got a pretty cool picture of the factory in the slideshow here. And then also, Jason, myself, and Jimmy Friend, our security specialist, went to Dallas, Texas, and completed our system security training to work our way toward the TSSP certification. So up top there is kind of the layout of the TSSP certification that allows us to begin revenue service with the streetcar. So there's 4 classes that are required for rail. Jason and myself, we've taken the 3 green ones there. We've got the transit rail incident investigation scheduled for the week of the 22nd, completing January 26th of 2018. And then at that time, we'll be TSSP certified, and then we're also looking to take a SMS class. That's a new addition to FTA regulations next year also. So Fire and Life Safety Security Committee, we held those kickoff meetings actually yesterday. Kind of an idea what the Fire and Life Safety Security Committee does instead of reading every single bullet point there. Basically what it does is it sets up a committee that allows the fire department, IMSA, police department to come in, review the plans with them, discuss any potential concerns that they might have, work through mitigating their concerns. And then also what we do is we set up training classes. So all of our first responders, the utility companies, they'll be trained on how to access the streetcar, how to work around the overhead catenary system, stay away from the contact wires so nobody gets injured. We'll also teach them how to jack up the car in case an accident and needs to be put back on the rails and moved out of the way. So it's just a committee that gets all the first responders, anybody that might be in contact with the system, explain the system to them, and we all talk about any concerns that they might have. Also, the SSCC, Safety and Security Certification Committee, had their kickoff meeting yesterday morning. So what that process does is we track any changes that occur out in the field that aren't quite per the drawings. Say there's a sewer line that needs an extension of a foot or two. We track those changes and we discuss those to make sure that they don't impact the security or the safety of the system. And so our designer will come in, discuss the changes, and we'll mitigate any concerns that we have there. Also, we review the CEL list. Basically what that is certifiable elements list. And kind of an idea of a CL is, to make sure that the emergency shutoff for the traction power substation works, to make sure that it sends all of the signals that it needs to, all the alerts, so that everyone's aware of anything that's going on in the system. So that's part of our integration plan and part of our CL list, and we'll make sure that everything works and integrates with the system. So a couple of pictures of our tour at Brookville. That's not the actual color of the streetcar. I went ahead and kind of took the color out of it to continue to tease you guys, and so that everyone would continue to be excited. Nobody gets a free peek of what the car looks like. But the unanimous response of everybody that walked into the shop and saw the streetcar for the first time was, "Oh, wow." Who knew that a piece of equipment, large piece of equipment that could almost look like an artistic piece? I mean, it is absolutely a beautiful car. The bottom left picture there is a picture of Nick Augie. He's our program manager at Brookville on the left there, Jason in the center, and then Steve Jagash, our SSO contact for ODOT on the right side there. One of the interesting things, or pretty much one of the awesome things about our tour there at Brookville, was it allowed Carla Barnaby and then Patrick Daniels, our maintenance manager. They came with us, and they got to spend 2 full days out in the shop taking a look at the cars throughout every aspect of the car, whether it was in framing or completed, nearly complete, like car number 1 there. And it was kind of funny. They would come out of the shop and they're covered in dirt because they're rolling around underneath the cars and really digging into the factors of the car and really getting to know the cars before they actually arrive in Oklahoma City. So mainline track construction, I'm sure everyone's aware that we're basically everywhere. We're working on wrapping up Bricktown. They're running up and down Hudson, finishing up track there on South Hudson. They're up in Midtown doing utility work. We're looking at starting work over along Broadway, first part of 2018. Stay away from the holiday season over there. Utility work, private utility work continues around Northwest 9th and Northwest 8th and Hudson. So one of the awesome additions that just happened here recently, we started standing up the overhead catenary poles. So this is on Hudson looking north. You can see the track in the center of the lanes there. So Hudson will actually be span wire. So that's why there's 2 poles. The rest of the system is all cantilever poles. So what happens here is because the streetcar is running down the center of Hudson instead of off to the side near the curbside, we put poles on either side of Hudson. There'll be a span wire that runs between them, and then our actual contact wire will be running down the center of the street. Hudson is set up to allow us to start testing streetcars shortly after they arrive, start going through the process of accepting the streetcars. So this is a great sign to start seeing the poles go up. These poles here will also be joint use poles. What that means is you'll have the catenary that connects to them, but you also have the pedestrian lights and the traffic lights attached to those also. Just a quick overview of the construction process. Things are progressing just like they should. We're right on schedule. You can see there that we're 55% complete with utilities, 41% complete with track demo, 33% complete with track installation, and then 35% complete for the OCS foundations. And again, anywhere where you see green, they're nearing completion. That's why Bricktown is nearly all green. So we're getting close to wrapping up in Bricktown.
And the blue again, Jesse?
The blue is the utilities, underground utilities, and overhead. That's they had some large water lines that they had to relocate up there on Dewey and on 10th Street, and then a lot of utility work there on Hudson, and they're marching their way north toward 4th Street there. Storage and maintenance facility. So I feel like I should apologize for the picture, but it's also a great picture because the traction power substation was just finished being set. Unfortunately, we can't see all of the building because of the traction power substation, but I thought it'd be a neat picture to show that it was set. I was out there yesterday morning. OG&E was out setting the OG&E transformer and running power to the transformer. So the way this works is OG&E runs power to the transformer. Power is ran underground to the traction power substation. That's where everything is controlled. And we control the traction power substations remotely also through our SCADA system. But that allows us to shut down power, re-energize power, and monitor the power of the overhead catenary. So this is traction power substation number 6. It will feed the charging bars inside, or the charging inside the storage and maintenance facility. Also power the overhead catenary on Hudson, and then also power stop number 5, or the Scissortail Park stop there on OKC Boulevard. Work continues inside the building. They're wrapping up all the MEP, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. They began painting, and then also from the exterior here you can see the wall panels going in. They're hoping to have windows set in a couple of weeks. Track has inside the building been installed. They're working on the yard track and getting that pulled out of the building and connecting it to Hudson. We hope to have that completed obviously before the cars arrive, so that we can unload the cars in Hudson and bring them into the shop. So they're looking to get that completed here in about a month. Oh, sorry. So this picture here, I apologize, the bottom picture is a little dark on the screen, but the top picture shows about a month ago, where the project was. The bottom picture shows that the parking lot's poured and complete. They're about 95% complete with the exterior metal panels. That'll help us seal up the building, and they're about, I'd say, probably 85% complete with the masonry work on that front wall. So it's really starting to come together, and we're still holding to that October 24th completion date. Vehicle procurement. So while we were in Brookville, we talked about delivery. So you'll notice that the delivery times have changed. They, initially we were talking about receiving a vehicle every week. So that has been pulled out a little bit just from scheduling with Silk Road, their delivery company. Silk Road's one of the only companies in the United States that can deliver streetcar, Brookville streetcar. So they have to hop around to make sure that they can accommodate all of our customers. But this allows us to get all of our streetcars in, well before revenue service starts. We'll begin testing in March along the Bricktown Loop as planned. But you can see that, so we receive our first car in October, second car in November, third car in November, and then it starts pulling out into December, and then January and February we'll be getting the last 2 cars there about a month apart.
You need to change that to 18 instead of 17.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Traveling back in time, apparently. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But, vehicle number 6 there, it's in its final assembly and skinning, and then that car B there is in its final framing stages, beginning to be ready for the skinning. So that completes my presentation. I know last time you asked for some renderings. Michael will cover those renderings in his presentation. I'd be happy to jump up and talk about any details of the platform renderings.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. Jesse, you showed the power thingamajiggy being installed. It's a thingamajiggy, that's an official term.
Technical term.
Yeah. So what have we done to address any concern about redundant power to keep the system running in the event that there's a power failure?
Right. So Bricktown, it has 2 traction power substations in it. There's one off of Flaming Lips, and there's one just south of Reno in that parking lot that people use for the movie theater, just east of BNSF Railroad. And then for the Midtown area, there's 3 traction power substations up in that area for redundancy. So we could, as long as we don't have both of the traction power substations go down in Bricktown, we're fine. So we can run off of one in Bricktown. You know, we actually had it as a deductive alternate in the construction contract to remove one of the traction power substations in Midtown just in case we needed to cut some costs. So we've got backup to our backup for the Midtown area. So this substation here, powering Stop 5 and the building, there's actually a change order in the MAPS department to add a generator to this traction power substation. They're reviewing the cost and everything.
That reminds me, a question I've never even thought to ask. What happened in the event of flooding? Like, you just made me think about that, just with electricity and stuff. Like, sometimes the rains just come real quick, right? We don't even have any warning. I know we'd stop the system, I know that, but what does that process look like in that event?
So, and I'll work with Herzog and we can get, a definitive answer, but the idea is, it'd be similar to like bus service. If we suspend bus service, we would, look at suspending the streetcar service. Obviously, we'll be looking at weather well in advance before things happen, but it is Oklahoma, so things pop up pretty quick. As far as suspending service, we would get with Michael and we put out notices, and we would have each platform has a pylon that we would be able to put up there immediately that service is suspended due to weather, something like that. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not, but as far as we'd be well ahead of everything.
I might add, drainage obviously was a big part of the whole engineering of the project, and we know we get, substantial rains in Oklahoma City, but drainage was obviously a major part of the engineering. There's drainage built into the...
I can add to that. So, obviously during design, so we can go out and take a look at it if you want, but all of the track slab, it has built-in drains. I think they're probably about every 100 feet. They're like large inlets, just like you'd see on the street. They're probably 12 foot or 12 inches wide, the width of the track slab, to take in that water, and then it gets redirected to the storm sewer. It ties into the existing storm sewer. We ran all that design through the stormwater department of Oklahoma City.
I must interject that thank goodness the contract went to Brookville for Made in America and not to Czechoslovakia or wherever the original was.
I think Jason and I would have
Thank goodness.
appreciated the trip overseas, but we are super excited for Brookville. I mean, I honestly, I can't explain just, how good of a job they're doing. They're really on top of everything, and, Dallas got their first car, Detroit's, got the second batch there, and we're in between Detroit and Milwaukee, but I mean they're small factory, but they're top notch.
Well,
really
thank goodness there was a glitch and they didn't get us their financials or whatever the situation was, or I guess it would have gone there. But
and Jesse, could you hit again real quickly how those will be shipped?
What's that?
Can you hit again how the vehicles will be shipped into Oklahoma City?
Sure. So Silk Road, they've got a tractor, like a semi-truck with about a 25, 28 axle trailer, and the nose of that trailer disconnects from the axle trailer. So whenever they show up, and while we were there, we talked about wrapping them like you would see like vehicles being shipped so that they don't get bug damage, that type of stuff, and also so that we can do a really nice reveal so that the people that really want to get out at 2 o'clock in the morning and come out here and take pictures, we can kind of avoid that. But so the idea is that they'll be wrapped, they'll be shipped. We'll bring them into Hudson, and the truck and the nose of that trailer disengage. They'll lower the front of the trailer. They've got special ramps so they can connect to the trailer, and they'll roll the streetcar right off. Brookville will they'll roll the streetcar off onto the rails. Brookville will have a team here to support the unloading and the storing of the vehicle. Herzog, our guys will be here. Obviously, Embark will be here to support, and then we'll prepare for the big reveal.
all right, Any other questions? All right, thank you, Jesse. Marketing and our final program report.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and share with you a few things that are going on in our division. Quickly, I just want to bring to everyone's attention that we have two events coming up. October 25th, we'll be participating, or we'll be conducting and hosting a health fair at the Transit Center. And one of the things that we're excited about, this is the 10th health fair that we've had over the last few years. And so we're continually seeing more and more people come to that, and we're also having more and more social services and health services asking to participate. And while we're limited on space, we have grown into other parts of the Transit Center last year, and it is allowing us to bring more services to our customers and to the community downtown. We also will be participating in the October 29th Open Streets event that will be taking place on South Robinson. And I believe that's a 12 to 4 event. We've been doing that for the last several years. It's been a great way to introduce our services to the general public, and we look forward to doing that again. It doesn't like that. I don't know what else to click. Do you mind moving it for me? Sorry. All right, we've got several research projects underway. These are a very important part of our organization's planning process, not only just from what Larry and Chip do, but also from the business side of our organization. So we've got a transit non-rider survey, a bus customer survey, a Hispanic market survey, and we also have an off-street parking survey going on. There's just some information on the status of each of those. We will be asking ETC to come back and present on these surveys when they're all complete and final reports are put together. One thing I do want to mention, though, is that earlier this summer we conducted a few non-rider focus groups, and these were conducted just over in our conference room in the Arts District Garage, and England Public Relations facilitated those. And what the purpose of those was to dig a little deeper into why people don't use transit services here in Oklahoma City. And I just want to focus on a couple of things, is that there is definitely solid support for transit services here in Oklahoma City. Even when they don't use the service, our focus groups have said, this is important to our community. We understand the value of that. So we are encouraged by that. But we also learned that that the known barriers that we had suspected existed, those were again confirmed. And it also gave us an opportunity to hear about what were some of their perceptions about transit. The number one that we heard was, it's not for me. It's for someone else who has this, or this scenario, life scenario. And then the other was, it's not accessible. It's not, there's not a bus stop near my home, or I would have to go too far, or there's not sidewalks, or there may not be covered shelters there. And while this wasn't an opportunity for us to really educate, that wasn't the purpose. It was really a listening session. We did note where they filled out a little survey too when they arrived to find out where they lived, and so that we could determine if there was service in the area. And so in a lot of cases there is service in their area, and what we have learned from that is that there's a large opportunity for us to make sure just the residents within a very highly served area to make them well aware of what services are available to them with just a short walk. And then on incentives, I know that's been discussed before. Well, what if we incentivize people to ride? And one of the things that they continue to say, and we've heard before, and as we're quite familiar with, is that more frequent service. So when they hear that it's 30-minute service, they think, oh, well, there's an idea that it needs to be even more frequent than that. And I know that we also believe from our Nelson-Nygaard study that the 30-minute service that we went to a few years ago is really the baseline of where we should be, and then improving on that is our ultimate goal. And so we're heading in the right direction, and we're doing those things. And so kudos to you for initiating that study earlier and for helping us get there. And then the other main thing that they said is we needed to go more places. We need to see it be able to be almost more suburban to suburban type of activity, meaning I may be in the Mercy Hospital area, living in that area, but I work at Hobby Lobby area. So that need to come downtown and then transfer out, or that need to cross over more of what I would call the rural Oklahoma City area, there might be a greater need for that. And that, again, is something that our planners and others are looking at. So there's that idea there that they would like to see that. Next, I'd like to just, went the wrong way. It's working now. All right, so the Hall Pass implementation, we've got that going again this school year. Thus far, we've got 6 high schools participating. That's Southeast High School, Classen, Harding Charter Prep, John Marshall, Emerson South, and Centennial High School are currently enrolling students in our program. And we've got 93 to date. So as Jesse mentioned, we've got a few renderings here to show you, and these are a really big part of our communication strategy for the streetcar. One of the things that we heard when we were doing the branding aspect of it was that people don't realize how the streetcar is going to integrate into our known environment, such as how is it going to interact with pedestrians, cyclists, motorists, then your on-street parkers. And so there's a wide majority of individuals who it's hard to visualize that. And that's understandable considering we haven't had a passenger rail component in, many decades, right? So few can remember that even in this room today. But what we want to do is start helping people visualize how that interaction will occur and to give an accurate vision as to what the platforms and the streetcar services will be like. Right now, we've got a communication team that meets monthly. That's of stakeholders from several entities, including the City of Oklahoma City and Downtown Oklahoma City, Inc., and ADG and MAPS offices. And we're also working on safety messaging. As Jesse mentioned, and Mr. Trustee Cooper was referencing, a scenario in which safety messaging would need to be deployed. We're working on those strategies of how we would do that, how would we communicate those out, but then also just laying the groundwork for how do you interact with this. Again, from those wide audiences of, how do I safely park my vehicle along a street? How do I interact on the platform? You'll see here, and then in this next slide, that there's a level boarding at all of the streetcar stops. And that's both for the streetcar at the pinnacle there of the platform. It's level for them. And then it also is designed to allow a bus bridge to occur, to have level boarding there as well. So at the base, at the further end of one, it allows buses to have level boarding at that area too. So very smartly designed to allow multimodal use occur here, and also to allow safety to take place, safe boardings take place in the event that we need to provide a bus bridge for weather conditions or a security issue, any of those types of things. Here, we expect this one to be a very dynamic stop. It's one of the busiest Spokey stations that we have in our network, and we expect that this stop will also be just as dynamic because of the access to the ballpark, the access to the theater and restaurants, and the Bricktown Canal boarding area. So last night we had the opportunity to present this at a community meeting regarding the Scissortail Park. Jason, I don't know if you would like to share also some of the points that we pointed out last night, or?
Go for it.
All right. I want to make sure he had the opportunity. But so this is the most unique stop of all 22, and I call it unique because it's designed and laid out fairly different than what you previously saw. The first 2 slides are pretty fair and depiction of what all 21 of the stops will look like. But this 22nd stop here, and this is the 22nd stop if you look at how it will operate, is that it's a double track stop, and it's on the north east corner there of Robinson, or Thunder Drive, I think is what they call that. And there too, what we see here is that there's a nexus of activity taking place here, and it's going to be truly, I think, a life-changing kind of area here for that area. It's bringing it to life. It's a dormant area now. It's being rebuilt with the Scissor Trail Park there on the south. You have the convention center also in the background, as well as just a depiction of what the hotel could look like. And what we want to point out here is that there's also a very different interaction of how you access the platforms. So again, the safety messaging is going to be a critical component to helping prepare our community in using this service safely and efficiently. We'll have access for cyclists, and then there's the same access there, and a ramp that's made accessible and also allows for pedestrians to safely get there. It also provides some operational opportunities. If a scenario occurred where we had a large event taking place at several of these destinations here, those two streetcars could be held in one lane, and then another streetcar could continue to operate service in the other lane, just to stage those so that way we could have that additional service there. Again, it opens the door for operational opportunities, but it also gives us a glimpse of what, and our community, a glimpse of a true light rail station would be like that you see in other parts of the country. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
I hope this picture is exactly what we see in a few years.
Michael, speaking of those pictures, those are Embark's pictures, right? I mean, it looks like you might share them with Scissortail Park, but we have, those are our pictures, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, I would just encourage you, I know you've already done a little bit of it, but to continue to share that on social media, because it's a great picture. And you've got a second one beyond this one? Or is this the only one?
So we have a total of 5 renderings that have been developed. And what we've tried to do is show what a stop might look like in each district that we'll be serving. And then this is the only stop that or the only rendering of this particular stop.
Yeah, I'd focus on this one. This is really nice. So let me clarify something. You said that a bicyclist could bring their bike onto the streetcar?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. But we can't do that on buses?
Not at this time. We're
right. Yeah. No, I understand. I'm just wanting to clarify that. So going back to the early comment that you said in regards to your survey about people saying, I wasn't aware how close a bus stop might have been to my home, maybe you could talk with our Public Works Department, because they are in the process of trying to put in new sidewalks, especially out in Ward 5. There's a couple of new areas that are getting those. And depending upon how the bond election next Tuesday goes, we might see even more, along with bike lanes. To put small signs, for example, let's say you're a couple of miles from a bus stop, close to the sidewalk or bike lane, it wouldn't be large enough to see from the street if you're in a vehicle, but if you're riding a bike, you could see it, a rather small one. But it would say something to the effect, your closest bus stop is at, and give the address or something, just to help those who are either using the sidewalks, these new sidewalks, because they're walking or jogging or something like that, or bicycling, that they could then be aware that, hey, there's one within a couple of miles that, especially if you're on a bike, it wouldn't take you 5 minutes to get to. So just a thought as far as helping people understand how many stops we have throughout the city. And really, I think many of them are surprised how close they are, within a couple of miles. So just a thought.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you. We'll definitely look into that.
Any other questions? All right, Michael, thank you. Okay, items from the, I guess we need a motion to receive our program reports. All in favor? Opposed? Items from trustees, James, any?
Yeah, just to build on what Councilman Greenwell just said, I would encourage everyone watching to take one friend to the poll to go vote next Tuesday in the election. One of the things, just listening to what Michael's described, our GEO bond, when it comes specifically to streets, sidewalks, and public transportation, we have an opportunity that those people who already don't feel like our public transportation system is accessible, we have an opportunity so that they have good sidewalks, that when they walk out their door, they have safe sidewalks, good bike lanes that get them to a bus stop that is going to protect them from the elements. And that's a message that anyone watching, I know people who are watching are good civic-minded people. Now go share the good news and get your friends and your neighbors to go vote, because this is a once every 10-year opportunity to invest in our city's crumbling infrastructure, and I'm excited about it. So thank you.
David? All right.
I just think it's cute that Trustee Cooper thinks people are watching.
Someone is, right? And to that someone, go find your friend.
I try to get my wife to watch, make sure she knows where I went, so. Okay. All right. All right, Jason, just comment if you would on
Thank you. I have just a couple of things. We had a busy week this week talking about transit to different groups. I wanted to thank the Central Oklahoma Commercial Association of Realtors for including us in their recent bus tour, where it was a group of realtors that toured the streetcar route, heard from a lot of different city departments and stakeholders, but they made a stop yesterday at Union Station, and we got to show them Union Station, the storage and maintenance facility, and of course talk to them about streetcar, the operations of the streetcar, but also encourage development to go along with the streetcar. We spoke a little bit about TOD. So it was a great group, and we appreciated being included in that. Also just wanted to say thanks again to the Scissortail Park Foundation for sharing some of their time with us during their event last night for us to unveil the Scissortail Park stop that Michael just shared with you. It was received well, and as you can see, it's just it's a dynamic stop. It's going to certainly be a focal point of the system. And then also wanted to report back to the trustees on the interim study that occurred at the state capitol this week. And I was encouraged. There was a great turnout for the study. I wanted to thank Chairman Vaughn and then Representatives Forrest Bennett and Monroe Nichols for hosting the event. And it was like I said, it was a crowded event. There was a lot of interest in public transportation and passenger rail. There was a diverse group of speakers. We had folks from Amtrak, different rail advocates there. We had representatives from Tulsa, the MPO in Tulsa. Our partners here in Oklahoma City, ACOG, were there to speak. And I think it just goes to show what we've been seeing for a long time in our resident surveys, that our residents want more robust transit. That's one of the city services that they continue to say needs more emphasis. And I think that was also reflected by the crowd and the interest that was at the interim study. But certainly there was a lot of discussion about passenger rail, both moving towards connecting Amtrak further north into Kansas. There was discussion about the need for rail between Tulsa and Oklahoma City. But we also had a lot of discussion on public transportation. And so, again, I was thankful for the opportunity to present and to share our story a little bit. And just for the trustees' information, in the short amount of time I was allotted, because it was a jammed agenda, I really tried to focus on three main things, and that was reasons for considering transit expansion. We know there's lots of good reasons for doing that. I wanted to share a little bit of our history on what happens when you make some investment in transit, just incremental investment that we've I should say that the council has made over the last few years and the results that has produced, if nothing else, in terms of ridership, but also other satisfaction. And then I was able to share the 2005 fixed guideway study. So the work that the trust did, even going back to 2005, was able to highlight that and really show, okay, this is where we are, and this is where, but this is really where we want to go. And for any of this more elaborate or exotic transit to work, whether it be commuter rail, passenger rail, BRT, we've said it, I know trustees say it, our consultants have said it, it all has to be supported by an enhanced bus network. And so we were, I think, able to get that message out. So anyways, it was just a great opportunity, exchange of information. I was encouraged by the interest.
Jason, can I ask a question in regards to that? Did anybody from the state bring up the fact that they will be looking at providing funding for Tulsa and Oklahoma City in regards to public transportation to supplement our funding of public transportation?
Unfortunately, no, we did not get into the funding discussion.
I would like to add, though, to that, having attended that meeting, where I think Jason's presentation was so helpful was so much of the conversation around us was, talking about these bigger passenger rail connections between Tulsa and Oklahoma City, between Oklahoma City and Ponca and Wichita and down to Fort Worth and Dallas. But what Jason did smartly is brought it back to, okay, yeah, well, you can connect those major hubs, but what are our people going to do and what are our tourists going to do when they actually get to these individual towns and cities? Like, we had the mayor of Thackerville who came and spoke at the interim study. And, immediately my question in my head was, okay, well, that's great. I want to connect through Amtrak or whatever passenger rail we can, our people from Oklahoma City and Norman down to Thackerville, of course. But what are we going to do when we get to Thackerville? How are we going to move around their main street and their businesses and their recreation? And I think, again, it's in our GEO bond you see here, that's what we focused on. Bus shelters, buses, sidewalks, bike lanes, things that allow people to move around a place once they have arrived at that place without a car. And I really appreciated you putting the nuts and bolts there, as it were. So thank you for that.
All right, any other questions? Well, good meeting. We learned a lot and appreciate all the presentations. So we are adjourned.